The Eagles' first joint training camp practice with the Browns was an intense battle, with players on both sides really making their presence felt. However, for the Eagles, their biggest star of the day was somebody you might not expect. Meanwhile, it was an up-and-down day for Jalen Hurts in the offense, but we got some big updates on the injuries to A.J. Brown and Landon Dickerson. Plus, Jalyx Hunt revealed a big change he made in the offseason, and the Birds' cornerback battle continues to get more depressing. So let's talk about that and everything else from the Eagles and Browns' first joint practice, starting right now. Alright, so as I said, Wednesday was the start of possibly the most important couple of days at Eagles training camp, as the Cleveland Browns traveled to Philadelphia for 2 joint practices with the Birds, those being, of course, on Wednesday and Thursday, before the two teams will eventually face off on Saturday in their second preseason game. And as I said in a recent video, these practices are especially important because 1, it's just good for the entire team to face off against some different competition, and 2, it's likely going to be the only time that the Bird starters get to face some outside competition before the start of the season. So it's really a good test for both the starting offense and the starting defense to see where they're at. And I'd say these reps are especially important for Jalen Hurts in the offense, as of course, Hurts is now set to enter his 6th NFL season with his 6th different play caller, this time with it being first-time offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. So again, to have the opportunity to get some live reps in a game-like situation against the new defense for the first time in Patullo's offense with him calling the plays is just going to be absolutely huge. And KP actually did talk about that before practice.
I think the biggest thing is just run it like a game as best we can so we can feel just the structure and the organization of the flow of how we're going to do things and get plays in and out and organize it to where the guys feel like they're playing in a game. That's why these things are fun, because you can go against another opponent. They haven't necessarily seen what we're going to do, and we can kind of get in the flow of play calling and game-like situations.
But now, circling back to Jalen Hurts, he actually just recently earned some very high praise from an all-time NFL great, as Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning was recently on the PFF podcast with Chris Collinsworth, where he had this to say about the Super Bowl MVP.
I mean, he's played so well in both those Super Bowls, but I like the way he goes about it. He calls me a lot. It asks me lots of questions. So he's a student of the game. You know, as another example, you think, I mean, he squats 600 pounds. He can, run over guys. He can throw it a mile. But his appreciation of the cerebral part of the game is what's impressive to me, and how he's taken his game to the next level. And I think the sky's the limit for this guy.
Have you ever met a more intense, serious human being than Jalen?
No.
It's almost intimidating when you're in the room with him.
I love seeing stuff like this for multiple reasons. I mean, 1, it's obviously just nice to hear Jalen get the respect that he deserves, and from an all-time great at that. But this should also give you some perspective, because notice, whenever legendary NFL quarterbacks like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Kurt Warner talk about Jalen Hurts, they always have extremely high praise for him and speak very highly about him. Meanwhile, then you have these media personalities and sometimes former backup NFL QBs just constantly disrespecting Hurts on TV. So, that's just funny to me. And personally, if I'm going to trust either one of those groups, I'm definitely going with the guys that are going down as some of the best to ever play the game. And I'm also going to trust that while rookie defensive tackle Ty Robinson still has a long way to go to get where he needs to be, he's already made a ton of progress, and he's working extremely hard to correct his mistakes and just get better.
I mean, definitely in the run game when it comes to, taking on double teams, being able to hold my ground more. I was definitely getting too much knockback on myself where they were able to climb to the linebackers. And as well as getting off blocks to go make plays, obviously they praised for the good, but obviously you want to, get past that and not really worry about the good. You want to worry about the bad so the bad doesn't happen again. So being able to come out here and practice and really just kind of focus on those kind of technique things I was talking about and make sure just every day getting better at that stuff.
Ty Robinson is almost certainly going to have a role in this Eagles defense this year, as he's the 4th defensive tackle on the depth chart. So to hear that he's got his head down, he's working hard, and he's learning from his mistakes is obviously great news. Again, he definitely seems to have gotten better as camp has gone on, and in that preseason game against the Bengals, he flashed some exciting potential, but there were also things that he could have done much better. So again, glad to see that he's focused on improving in those areas. Moving on though, it was a different defensive lineman that actually made his presence felt first against the Browns, that being edge rusher Azeez Ojulari. As early in practice on Wednesday, he was able to get a sack on the Browns' second team offense, which was definitely awesome to see, and then shortly after, Ojulari made another nice play, this time against the run, going up against the Browns starter. So, it's definitely a good sign to see Ojulari making a real impact at practice against some different competition. He was probably the Birds' biggest star of the day. And again, it's just nice to see that, as he's a guy who has kind of had a quiet camp up to this point so far, but I still have high hopes for him, because I think he has a lot of talent. He's shown during his career so far that he has the ability to produce, especially as a pass rusher. And again, if he can just stay healthy, I think he can make a real impact for the Birds defense this season. So again, it's definitely good to see him impressing and making plays against the Browns in joint practice. And apparently, he's also really helped Eagles' second-year edge rusher Jalyx Hunt become more comfortable and grow in his game as well.
Azeez is my dog, man. He actually, he pointed me in the direction of just, understanding my rushes, learning my rushes, learn what works for me, what doesn't work for me, how to be comfortable. So being able to watch his rushes and how comfortable he is and how he can throw one rush with different sets, something I wanna take from him and everybody in our room. Obo, he just got here. Uche, he just got here. So everybody, I just ask questions. But Azeez, yeah.
Definitely glad to hear that Ojulari has helped Jalyx Hunt in some way just to become more comfortable and continue to grow as a player. And obviously, as I've said before, I think Jalyx Hunt is going to have an absolutely huge year for this Eagles defense. His talent and ability is off the charts. He showed promise last year. And going into this offseason, not only has he apparently refined his game quite a bit, but he's also apparently put on some significant weight that should help him out as well.
Has your body changed a lot in a year's time?
Heck yeah. Yeah, man, mad weight. I think I got up to 14. Now I'm down for around 12. So, all in an effort to be better, produce more, help my team out.
Yeah, so that's definitely interesting, but I think as long as it doesn't affect his speed off the edge, adding weight is a good thing for Jalyx Hunt, and I think specifically it'll probably help him out more when doing things like setting the edge against the run. So, again, overall, I think that's a good thing, and I think he's going to have a monster year for the Birds defense this season. And if you ask star tackle Lane Johnson, there's a lot of guys on this defensive line that he seems to think are primed for great seasons, whether it's Hunt, the other new addition at edge rusher in Josh Uche, or the third-year defensive tackle Moro Ojomo.
Well, I told y'all Josh before the season, I think he's really had a good camp. Really has a lot of different moves in his arsenal as far as changing up his timing. Jalyx has come on. Nolan's is starting to come on past week, getting back in the groove of things. Guess interior-wise, Moro, I think Moro's really, really doing well. Obviously JC is who he is, but Moro is probably one of the more slept-on guys. But take it from me, man, he's the real deal. Works his tail off, probably one of the hardest workers we have. So out of all those guys, them.
Those are certainly some very exciting comments from Lane there. Anything he says, I listen to, because the guy's the best tackle in football and a future Hall of Famer, so his comments definitely hold some weight for me. And obviously, he specifically really raved about Uche and Ojomo, which is really no surprise, honestly, just considering that Uche is really impressed in camp lately and made a lot of plays, and Ojomo has possibly been the biggest star in all of Eagles training camp so far. So obviously, I was already really excited about both of them, but these comments from Lane only make me even more excited. And overall, I'm just really excited about the overall current state of the Eagles defensive line right now. Obviously, they got a few stars, and then they also have this group of more young, unproven guys that have a lot of hype surrounding them right now, so I'm very excited about them as well. However, one thing I'm not super excited about is the current state of the Eagles cornerback battle, which, by the way, that's continuing to heat up, I guess you could say, as Adoree Jackson got the start in 7v7s, and he made a nice play in 1v1s, getting a pass breakup going up against a Browns receiver. However, when it came time for 11v11s, Kelee Ringo was actually the one running with the starter. So, again, it definitely seems like that battle is really, really close right now. And obviously, the newcomer Jakorian Bennett is also in the mix. and hopefully he can stand out and win the job if Ringo and Jackson just continue to be inconsistent. But unfortunately, Wednesday was not Bennett's best showing, as although he did have a pass breakup against Jerry Jeudy, he also allowed multiple catches, one for a touchdown, and he got flagged for defensive pass interference at one point. So, obviously, Bennett is still very new. He's still learning the defense. He's still getting adjusted, but, it's just not great to hear, especially with how on edge I think we all are about that Eagles cornerback position right now. And I definitely think that that's probably the Birds' biggest area of concern moving forward, so we'll continue to monitor that. And we'll also have to continue to monitor the injury situation with star receiver A.J. Brown, as after returning from a hamstring injury and being limited in the Birds' previous 2 practices, AJ was actually downgraded to out and missed practice on Wednesday with that hamstring injury. Now, why did this happen? Right now, we don't exactly know. I mean, there's a chance he could have re-injured the hamstring in practice on Tuesday. There's also a chance that nothing happened and they just kept him out for precautionary reasons as he continues to recover from that injury. Again, we don't know, but it'll just be a situation to monitor moving forward. And of course, the situation at left guard will also be something to watch as Landon Dickerson recovers from his meniscus injury. Speaking of which, Dickerson actually had the surgery on Wednesday morning, just about 3 weeks before the Birds take on the Cowboys in the season opener. So hopefully he's able to be back for that. And if there's one thing we know about Landon Dickerson, it's that he's super, super tough. So I feel like there's a solid chance he could return for week 1. Now, staying on the topic of injuries, we actually didn't get to see Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders practice against the Birds, as he suffered an oblique injury early on in the day and was then held out for the rest of practice. But at the very least, it was cool to see him and Jalen Hurts having a long discussion after practice, where I'm sure the Super Bowl MVP was almost definitely giving some advice and wisdom to the rookie. And again, that's just cool, because, I mean, that just shows you how Jalen is viewed by some of these young guys that are just coming into the league. I mean, they clearly all respect him. So again, that was definitely cool to see. And also, speaking of Hurts, it was an interesting day for him in the offense with quite a few ups and downs. As practice didn't start out too great for them, as Hurts started just 3 for 6 with an interception in 7-on-7s, with that interception coming on a throw to Dallas Goedert, so that definitely wasn't great to see. And apparently, at times throughout practice, Hurts just held onto the ball a little bit too long. He seemed a little bit uncomfortable with some of the looks the Browns defense was giving him. And there were also more moments throughout practice where Hurts was nearly picked off, or he was picked, but it didn't count because he was sacked, or, things like that. But that said, Hurts and the offense also did have plenty of good moments as well, and he definitely responded to his interception, as after that, he led 2 touchdown drives against the Browns' starting defense, both of which ended in him throwing touchdowns, the first of those coming from about 5 yards out to A.J. Dillon, and the second going to Devontae Smith from about the same distance. And by the way, Smitty also had a very good day, as he usually does in these joint practices, as he got multiple catches all over the field. But moving on from that, there was also a play where Jalen Hurts hit Johnny Wilson for about a 25-yard gain as Wilson went up over Browns cornerback Cam Mitchell for the 50-50 ball and came down with the catch. And overall, Hurts ended up going 16 for 24 with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So overall, I'd say it was a, all right, kind of shaky day for Jalen Hurts. Again, there were a bunch of ups and downs. But overall, you can't really read too much into it. It's just practice. He's taking chances. It's whatever. I'm not concerned that he had a couple bad plays here and there. And again, I think on the contrary, it was definitely good for him to get these reps going up against a new defense for the first time with Kevin Patullo as the offensive coordinator. And let's not forget, this is a defense that features Myles Garrett, one of the very best defensive players in all of football. And shocker, he was a game wrecker all practice long, as he blew up multiple plays, he beat Jordan Mailata on multiple occasions, and he even challenged Lane Johnson and gave him all he could handle as well. And at one point, Garrett also got a sack on Jalen Hurts, so it was definitely a good test for Hurts and the offensive line just to face a player of Myles Garrett's caliber. And overall, just looking at this joint practice as a whole, it was a very tightly contested, intense battle for both sides, with the Eagles apparently winning the day on a slight edge, but honestly, that's just a matter of opinion, and it also is, again, just practice, so you can't really read too much into anything. But that said, obviously, these joint practices are still very important, they're very eventful, and they're very exciting, and Of course, this was also just the first of 2 joint practices versus the Browns, so I'm going to be covering the second one, that being tomorrow, in a video very, very soon. So make sure you guys subscribe and you turn on notifications so you don't miss that. And also, while you're at it, make sure you guys drop a like to show some support if you did enjoy this video, because it really does help me out so much. So if we can get to at least 500 likes on today's video, that would be greatly appreciated. And also, leave a comment down below. What were your biggest takeaways from the Eagles' first joint practice against the Browns? Again, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. And also, if you want to watch another Eagles video going over some other notes and news from training camp, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.